Hey everyone, welcome back. B&B's Football Happy Hour. We're back. We're bearded. We're beautiful as always. I am Bobby with my man Brian.
What's going on? Glad to be back for number 19, I think now tonight. So another good one.
Yeah, man. I would like to start the show. Obviously, our beats are by Dunson as always, but I need to start the show, Brian, with a little moment of silence, if you will. A moment of silence for the kicker position in my league of record. Over the past week, we had a league vote, and a majority voted to boot the kicker out of the league in favor of an extra flex position. So please, if you would, a moment of silence. Thank you. I am so excited. We talk about this like weekly the past few weeks. So finally, I got my wish. The kicker is gone. So that obviously means every week of the season, I'm going to lose because somebody else's extra flex outscores my extra flex.
Probably.
But regardless, I'm excited. I do not have to worry about a kicker anymore.
There you go. Oh, it is. That's the power of vote right there. You get people on board, and then things go your way. So
I've only been screaming about it for a couple of years now.
Yeah, well, you got to take it in the action. I guess the votes went you guys' way, so that works.
Yes. And I know you're going to talk about it at the end of the show, but I'm really excited about all of the new platforms that we're on. So can you hit on that a little bit here in the beginning of the show as well?
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, so our Facebook page, I think we're right at 850 people now, so a little bit of a jump from last week. I think we had about 30 new members come on last week. So, again, everybody go out there, add some more friends. I know you might need to re-add some of the same people because after a few days, I think the invite goes away. So go out there and invite everybody else again. And then, over the past few days, I've just been getting kind of bored. So I've been looking into all the different platforms. We run our audio through Podbean. So we obviously record our episodes on Zoom, and then it gives us a video that we post on Facebook. Then we use the audio to put on Podbean, which then basically spits it out into Apple Podcast. We're now official on Apple Podcasts. You don't have to add the link anymore. You can just search B&B's Football Happy Hour and look at us up. It's a different little logo. It's like a green little logo. They didn't approve our other one. I guess we didn't have copyrights to the picture or something. So I had to change up the picture. But, yeah, we're official on Apple Podcasts. I just downloaded Google Podcasts. That looks really good. We're on there. You can search for us on there as well. You can use the website link that we have through Podbean. Let me see. Then some of the other apps we have, I just looked up, any kind of podcast apps. So they have Listen Notes, Deezer, Overcast, and Stitcher. So they're all free podcast apps that you can download, or I don't know, whatever one that you like or whatever one's the easiest to use. They're free downloads. And again, you can just search B&B's Football Happy Hour and we'll come up and you can download all the episodes. And once you subscribe, every time we put a new episode on, I think it'll go right into the file there. I think you just might have to click download, and then in about a minute or two, you'll be able to listen. And then I have a few pending. We have Amazon Music, Pandora, and Tuned In, and Alexa. So I think you might be able to just yell at your Alexa to play B&B's Football Happy Hour. But
that'd be great.
I'm not too sure about that yet, but those ones say they take a little while to get approved. So we're still waiting to hear back on that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but we are now international, right?
Well, yeah, we are international. So through Podbean, when I upload the audio, you can go to, I guess there's a distribution, kind of tells you your statistics of how many people download each week and what days. So I look at that maybe every once a week. And I think there is somebody in France who has downloaded 13 episodes.
There you go. Maybe it could be somebody's.
Yeah.
Somebody's.
So
we're big in France, Brian. We're big in France.
We're big in France. It tells me what state, so I know. I mean, I can see,
nice.
How many downloads from, North Carolina, Maryland, New Jersey, all those. And then, we do have 13 downloads from France. I think it's from one of the apps. I think it's from the app Deezer app. I don't know. Maybe that's a big European thing. I don't know. Maybe somebody's looking
Either way.
hear some
We're
football
international now. We're big time.
And we're basically Pitbull now, you know.
So, that's right.
Mr. Worldwide.
So eventually we have to do content here, Brian. So this show is going to be a little different. Unfortunately, this is a little more serious note. One of our guests tonight was actually from Houston, and with the hurricane stuff coming through, they were forced to evacuate or head out of town. So we are changing up a little bit, and our second guest is huge in the fantasy world, and his name is Chase Vernon. So we're going to have him on. When we introduce him, I'll give you all his accolades. And so we're going to have him on for actually the Browns and the Seahawks. We'll talk about the Seahawks as well. And we have some other fancy questions to throw at him. So little different format for the show. Only one guest who's covering a lot. But if we're going to have anyone do it, he's probably the guy for that. So, but first, last week we did the AFC and NFC, what was it? West teams, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
AFC,
So
yep.
this week we're doing our ultimate AFC and NFC North teams as far as fantasy goes. So I can't remember. Which one were you, Brian? Because I did them both again.
I'm doing AFC or NFC this week. Last week I did AFC, so
all right.
This week I'll do NFC.
I'll start first. AFC quarterback, no question. Lamar Jackson. He's the number 1 or 2 quarterback on just about everybody's list. And if he's not, you're nuts. Yes. Granted, I did pick him to flop this year as one of my bold predictions. However, I'm not dumb enough to use a bold prediction. They're bold for a reason, to move him too far down on my ranking. So he's still my number 2, and there's nobody else even close to that. So that was an easy pick. I'm sure you feel the same. My 2 wide receivers, I have OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., who we're going to talk about a little later, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Those are my top 2. Any arguments there?
You're 3 for 3 in my book right now. So, I mean, I have Lamar, OBJ, and Juju so far, yep.
And both the receivers, they had a down year last year, but I think they're bound to rebound, especially with Big Ben coming back for Juju. I think that really helps him out. I mean, Juju, he was like the 60th ranked receiver last year, but he had nobody throwing him the ball. And the last full season they had together, 2018, Juju had over 100 catches with Big Ben. And I can't even remember, 1,200 yards or, something like that. So I definitely see him rebounding. Running backs, I have Joe Mixon and I have Nick Chubb. Same for you?
Yeah, we're 5 for 5 so far here. We didn't talk about this prior, so
no, this is not so exciting so far. But both Mixon and Chubb, they're borderline first round, early second round picks in fantasy drafts. Nick Chubb was, if not for Derrick Henry blowing up for 212 rushing yards the last game of the season last year, I'm pretty sure it was 212. Then Nick Chubb would have been the NFL rushing leader. So even with Kareem Hunt there, which he was last year, Nick Chubb still produces. And I anticipate that happening again. And Joe Mixon is really all they have. Gio Bernard's not part of the offense too much anymore. And I think besides Mixon and Bernard, there was like 0 running back touches to go around in Cincinnati last year. So he's definitely going to be the man there. My flex player is James Conner. I anticipate him, again, having a rebound year with Big Ben back. But is that where you went?
I had 2 guys. Yeah, I had Connor as one and J.K. Dobbins as another one.
Okay.
I think Dobbins might get a lot of looks there in Baltimore. I don't know. I think he might take over for Ingram, but I don't know if it's going to be right in the beginning of the year. But yeah, I had Dobbins, Connor. I'm not really super sold on either guy, I guess. Maybe more Connor, I guess, because he'll probably be the starter from week 1. But
so you're telling me in a draft you would take J.K. Dobbins over Mark Ingram right now?
Probably, yeah, I would.
Wow. Okay, a lot of faith in the rookie. Yeah. That's bold right there, my friend. I'm going Mark Ingram all day, every day over Dobbins because he has the job. But if you told me Dobbins was going to end up taking over for Ingram, I could see it happening. But I'm definitely going Ingram.
Yeah, it'll probably be a slow start for Dobbins, but I think as the year goes on, I think he'll produce more. And I don't know, Ingram, he'll get you some touchdowns. He's a big guy, but I don't know. I can see maybe next year just Dobbins being the guy, like the starter from day
I
one
got you.
there. But, yeah, it'll be tough.
Tight end for me, no brainer. Mark Andrews, Baltimore. He's the third, as far as ADP go, he's the third tight end off the board in just about every draft. Maybe some folks take Ertz over him, but it's Mark Andrews hands down. That's not really any argument there, I don't think. Kicker, because I guess we have to. Justin Tucker, he's the number one kicker in the game. I mean, so that was a no-brainer. And defense, I want Pittsburgh. They get lots of sacks. They got a great pass rush, and acquiring Minka Fitzpatrick last year was huge for them as well. And I mean, Pittsburgh's defense, they get it done every year. So that wasn't too difficult of a pick for me either. You can always go Ravens, but they just lost a huge pick or a huge piece of their defense in Earl Thomas. He may be an idiot, but he is good at football. So that is definitely going to hurt their defense there.
Yeah, I had Tucker and the Steelers as well. So AFC North wasn't as exciting as I thought, I guess. There's some pretty easy picks, I guess, there if you're building the ultimate fantasy team. All right. I have NFC North. Little different than yours. I think I had a few tough decisions. The first one, tough call with Stafford or Rodgers. I'm going Stafford based off of
there you go.
What he did last year. I mean, look, either one. I think they might have similar number. I think they'll probably have similar numbers this year. But I don't know. Just looking at Stafford last year, I mean, he played 8 games, and in the first 8 games, he was second in TD passes, fourth in yards. So, I mean, if he would have played the whole year, and he's not a guy that gets hurt a lot. So, I mean, he was on pace to have a pretty solid, probably top 5 fantasy football season last year. Easy.
5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns.
So, yeah, I just don't like what Green Bay did in the offseason. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. They didn't really do anything to help Rodgers. Plus, he's got Jordan Love back there now. And I think, like the Eagles, I mean, I think he'll have to play a few plays. I mean, maybe go in there and run. But, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's taken a few plays away from Rodgers each game. So, I mean, you don't ever know. They could throw him in on the goal line or something like that and take some TDs away from Rodgers. So, yeah, I'll go Stafford, QB.
That's the right choice.
My first running back, I had Dalvin Cook. Now, that was –
obviously.
Yeah, I'm pretty cautious about that. I mean, we both said – we've talked about it a few times. I mean, he's a guy who's hurt constantly, but –
you have to go him. I mean, he was second points per game last year in running backs behind Christian McCaffrey. So, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, when he's on the field, he produces. It's just whether or not he's going to stay on there or not. But like we said, I mean, I don't know necessarily if I'm going to, if I'm taking him in the top 5. But as far as this goes, I mean, I have to take Dalvin Cook as one of my running backs. My second running back, again, not really a whole lot to choose from, but I'll go Aaron Jones from the Packers. I don't think he's going to have a big year like he did last year. I mean, he scored a lot of touchdowns last year. I think he'll have a little bit of a
19.
down. Yeah, 19. I mean,
yeah, not you think. He definitely did. I mean, he did score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, 19. I thought it was 18 or 19. Yeah, so he's definitely not going to do that again. But I mean, if he gets 9 or 10 or 8 to 10, I mean, I'd still take him there. If we're going all NFC North here, so.
No chance I'm taking Aaron Jones in the first round. I know some guys are Aaron Jones truthers and they're up there, but he is in for a big touchdown regression. And look, I mean, the Packers went out and they didn't draft a wide receiver again for the millionth time, but they did take A.J. Dillon, a running back. So, I mean, I think this is Aaron Jones last year on a contract. And I mean, they're basically telling us that, this might be it for Jones. And they're not going to just let Jones go full bore this year and then just start fresh with A.J. Dillon. They're going to work him in there. So I'm not an Aaron Jones guy, but out of default, really wasn't much left on the table. So I went with Jones as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's another somewhat cautious pick, I guess. Cook, I mean, because he's hurt all the time. Jones, like you said, he's due for a down year. So, yeah, they're my running backs. Wide receiver, first guy, obviously, Devontae Adams. This guy gets 1 million targets a year. He's the only guy really that Aaron Rodgers throws the ball to.
He's second in ADP and for receivers, Michael Thomas and then Devontae.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him easily getting 1,200 yards and 10 or 11 touchdowns probably. So if he stays healthy, I know he was hurt a little bit last year. He missed some games, but
it's crazy. I don't think he's ever had a 1,000-yard receiving season.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
double-digit touchdowns, but never. Last year he was like 997 or something, but I don't think he's ever hit 1,000.
I know he missed at least 3 or 4 games last year,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. So I don't know. That's based off of him playing 16. I don't know, but yeah, I think he'll at least get anywhere from 9 to 11 touchdowns. So I'll go Adams. He'll get a ton of targets. Second receiver. I mean, I had a few choices here, but I went Kenny Galladay from Detroit here with my second
Also the right choice.
Spot. Yeah, it was either him or Thielen. I put Thielen down there in my flex spot.
Same. This sucks.
Yeah, we didn't talk about
this is the same.
Yeah, I mean Galladay. I mean, he's another guy. I think he had 11 touchdowns last year, almost 1,200 yards. So,
and that was without Stafford for half the year.
8 games without Stafford. So, I mean, I could see him easily getting 1,000 yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns if he plays a full year again with Stafford.
A lot of hype around Galladay this year.
Yeah, he's a solid guy. He might be a little bit not a sleeper, but I don't think he's somebody people always think about, I guess, when they go into like a fantasy.
I don't think before, but I think now. I mean, he's going. I think he's a top 8 receiver in ADP, or definitely top 10.
Yeah, well, he just might not get as much love as I think he should. I mean, people don't really.
Fair enough.
He doesn't get much publicity. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody really talking about.
I got you. Like, nationally, the fantasy world knows him, but I hear you. I hear you as far as real football and all that goes.
Yeah. So
Thielen again. Now, Thielen, man, I'm low on Thielen, kind of.
Yeah, without Diggs, I don't know how he's going to do.
But he's going to get a lot of catches.
Yeah.
He has to, right? Who else are you going to throw it to? Him and Justin Jefferson, that's all they got.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I mean, I put him down on my flex. That was kind of a flex move there. So, tight ends. I mean, last week I had a tough decision, tight ends. This week I picked Hawkinson from the Lions. I mean, there wasn't really much to –
No, nobody.
So, last week I had a pretty good division with tight ends there. In the AFC West. So now this division here, I think, I mean, to me, these guys all pretty much stink. I mean,
they're not good.
So my choices were Hawkinson from the Lions, who, I mean, I guess I picked him because he probably has the most upside.
Correct. He's athletic, but he's nowhere near my top 12.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really do much last year. He only had 370 yards and 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, the other choices are Kyle Rudolph.
Half of that was his first game.
Yeah.
For week 1. Yeah, you got Rudolph and Irv Smith splitting time in Minnesota. You don't want that. You got
Jimmy Graham.
The ghost of Jimmy Graham in Chicago.
You got Jay Sternberger from Green Bay, and then you got the rookie from Notre Dame, that Cole Kmet from the Bears. So yeah, I mean, not much to pick from. I'll go Hawkinson based off of, I guess, potential. I don't know. We'll see if he –
No, because there's nothing left.
Yeah, pretty much I had to pick him.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Maybe the best of the worst.
Thielen is flex. Kicker, I would go Matt Prater from the Lions. I don't know. I just feel like Lions are a team that just love kicking field goals. I don't know. Last year, he only missed one. He missed 1 extra point. He missed 5 field goals, but he'll probably score you 120, 130 fantasy points. I think he's a top 10 fantasy kicker, so I went with him.
Well, I had 2 guys here for a coin flip, and I'll go with tails, which is Dan Bailey, because heads was Prater. So I'll go Dan Bailey, kicker for the Vikings, because they should score a decent amount of points. Plus, more than half their games are kicking inside, because all their home games plus their 2 games against Detroit every year. So I'll go him just to be different than you. Yeah.
Then the Bears. I mean, I don't even know who their kicker is. They always flip flop kickers, and then
whoever it is no good.
You could go Crosby, but I mean, again, they play outside in Lambeau Field, so they're going to play some games in some pretty crappy weather. So, we'll just leave him out because he'll probably get a few misses just from bad weather. So, yeah, I'll go.
And your
Prater.
defense?
Defense is Chicago Bears. Had to feel some love for Chicago. Last year they were the top 5 fantasy defense. They gave up 19 points per game. They were a top 5 fantasy unit last year, so I'll stick with them. They got some good pieces there. I mean, obviously they got Khalil Mack. They signed Robert Quinn.
That's big time. That is the same reason that I picked Denver's defense in AFC West, because Chubb came back. And you have those 2 horses on the outside crashing down, screaming in, disrupting the pass, getting to the quarterback, blowing things up. You have 2 solid pass rushers like that. I mean, think about the Colts. The Colts, when Peyton Manning was there, had the worst defense ever. But they had Terrence Mathis on one side and Robert Mathis on one side and Dwight Freeney on the other. Yeah. And they just wreaked havoc, and it carried their defense. Those two guys.
Yeah, I think they'll probably be another top 5 defense this year. I mean, with Matt Quinn, Eddie Jackson. I know we talked about him when we covered the Bears, and then they drafted that kid from cornerback from Utah, Jalen Johnson. I mean, that he was pretty highly touted, I think, coming out of college. So
yeah, agreed.
Secondary is going to be pretty good. I mean, defensive line's good. So I know they got Trevathan as a linebacker, and they got Roquan Smith. I think he's hurt, but I don't know. It's a pretty good team. So
yep.
I mean, I expect them to be easily a top 10 fantasy team. So
yeah,
we'll go with them. So yeah, they're my NFC North all fantasy team picks right there.
There we go. The North is done. All we have left are the NFC and AFC East and South teams.
Okay.
2 more weeks before the regular season, I believe. So that works out just right.
Yeah. So I think we're covering 2 teams tonight. I think we got a few left after that. So yeah, maybe we'll have to double up some.
Yeah, we'll be all right. We'll get it. We'll make it happen.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. All right. I think we got our guy ready to go here, our one and only guest tonight. He's going to double dip, throw in some overtime, and cover 2 teams for us.
That's
tonight,
right.
So.
For free, too. Overtime for free. It was nice.
Yeah, not time and a half, so yeah.
That's right.
All right, we'll get him loaded up here real quick.
Yeah.
All right, folks. We are here. Our first and only guest this evening is Chase Vernon. I told you he is deep in the fantasy realm. He is the owner and operator of Fantasy Intervention. He is a writer for Dynasty Happy Hour and Dynasty Nerds, and hopefully soon, maybe he'll find out tomorrow, he may be a writer for the Fantasy Pros, which personally is my favorite group of fantasy writers and podcast guys. I listen to them all the time. He's also a Scott Fishbowl participant and an administrator of Fantasy Football Discussion on Facebook, which is actually how I found him. It's a group of over 10,000 folks, just talking football. So, Chase, welcome. Where are you at? Are you actually a Browns Seahawks fan? What's going on there? Who's your team?
Oh, man. Where am I at? So I grew up as a Washington fan, right? And been a Washington fan for over 30 years of my life. Have a whole bunch of Washington stuff. In fact, I bought jerseys up until I believe the jerseys were bad luck, because every time I bought a jersey, the player either left the team the next year, like LeVar Arrington, for example, or Dale Green, or the player, unfortunately, got a bad injury, or even Sean Taylor with that situation. So I also got frustrated with a lot of the decisions within the organization. The release or the firing of McLuhan was a big one for me, the handling of the Robert Griffin injury. So, when you're a fan of something, and people I don't think realize this, you're repping that, that brand, you're repping that company, you're repping that organization. And when you rep an organization, that means that you support their decisions, right? You support what they're doing. And so for me, I really can't support, the Washington organization anymore, because I just don't agree with what they're doing. I mean, Dan Snyder has driven me nuts, and I feel like I'm in a terrible marriage or something, where it's just I turn around and she's cheating on me every time or something,
He's the worst owner of football, easy.
He is. So I still have a place in my heart for Washington. I always will. I'm going to watch every single game. It's on, the television around here, as I'm from Virginia Beach. So I'm still going to obviously, always have a special place in my heart, but I'm actually out there. I'm out there in the open right now, and I'm trying to decide between a few different teams. And I've narrowed it down to about 5, but I'm still not sure. Oh, God, no. The Eagles. The Eagles. He just turned around his hat and he had an Eagles hat on for those listeners out there. Man.
That's not in the top 5, huh?
No. I couldn't go to a division foe. That would just be too much. That would be too much. And I don't hate teams. My little brother's a Cowboys fan, so growing up, my parents always taught us, don't hate the other team. Just, root for your own team, because we used to get on each other's skin, so much. So, yeah, I mean, I don't hate the Eagles by any stretch of the imagination, but I just couldn't all of a sudden just start rooting for them,
Yeah.
For sure.
So who's your top 5? Who's the top 5? I have to hear the top 5.
All right. So the Broncos, with the way that they're setting it up, I support with what the Broncos are doing as an organization. I think they're setting it up to, if Drew Lock fails, then that organization could absolutely explode if they come into a Matt Ryan or a Matthew Stafford over the next couple of years, right? The other one that I was thinking of was Carolina, because obviously me being from Virginia, Carolina is right down the street. So I can still, be a fan of that really close. My favorite organization right now, when it comes to how they're building their rosters, is either going to be the Indianapolis Colts or the Los Angeles Chargers. So those two are obviously, big time options for me. And let's see. The fifth team, I want to say it was the Detroit Lions, just because I like their players. Like, I like Swift, I like Hawkinson, I like Galladay. So it'd be an easy team to root for. I don't know. I think I don't think that team made the cut. I think there was another team, but I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. Oh, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're flying up everyone's rankings as far as everything goes. So we may talk about them a little later. So I'm gonna hit you first. We'll go Seahawks first. You go with Seahawks?
I'm down for whatever, man. Let's do it.
All right, man. So my first question for you is, up until last year, the Seahawks haven't had two solid receivers in, I don't know, forever. Maybe Steve Largent had a solid number 2 one year. I'm not sure. But they drafted athletic freak DK Metcalf, and he was a beast last year. And they pair him with Tyler Lockett. They got a nice little duo going there. Now, last year, Lockett was a 15th highest scoring receiver in PPR leagues. And DK Metcalf, I think, was 33rd. Now, they were only separated by 10 targets during the year. The difference in the points were Tyler Lockett turned his 110 targets into 82 catches. And DK Metcalf, he had 100 targets, but he only caught 85 balls. Now, currently, Metcalf has an ADP of one spot higher than Lockett. So I'm not sure why that's happening. I'm not sure why DK makes that jump. But for you, who do you think the highest scoring receiver is going to be for them this year? Is it going to be Lockett again, or is DK moving up the ADP charts for a reason?
So I think it's going to be Lockett again personally. It's going to be very close, but I think it's going to be Lockett. We saw throughout the year DK Metcalf's route tree actually expanded as the season went on. If you guys go check out Next Gen Stats and you go to the receiving route charts, you'll see like almost every single one of DK Metcalf's routes were either just straight up go routes or fly routes, or they were posts. I didn't even think he had that many corner routes. It was literally just 2 routes that he was running the entire season, which is what we saw in college. So with that being said, as the season went on, his route tree started to get a little bit more complex. You started seeing him get a little more yards. And in turn, I believe he had a few better games towards the end of the season. But the reason why he had those 100 targets with only 58 receptions were because of his air yards, I believe. His air yards were absolutely nuts compared to what Lockett did. And also, I think Lockett did more with the yards after the catch, if I'm correct. DK Metcalf was only 35. However, this all happened with Lockett before week 9, because Lockett got injured last year in the San Francisco game, I believe. It was week 10. Mm-hmm. He had a contusion, I think, or something happened with his leg. It was like a blood clot or something on those lines. Happened with his leg. And he actually had to go to the hospital that night. And although they had a bye week, I think the next week, he still played in all those games, but he wasn't the same. He wasn't getting his yards of separation per target dropped significantly. And I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it was a significant drop. And his yards after the catch, I believe, dropped as well. So with Tyler Lockett, man, I love what he did in the beginning of the season. Weeks 1 through 9, he was wide receiver 3 in PPR, I believe. So, I mean, Lockett's ability to be that alpha receiver is there. And in addition, he's also great out of the slot. So he can play in multifacets of this offense and either be the short target guy, the deep target guy, the intermediate guy. Like, he can do everything. So DK Metcalf still needs some time to develop. And I'm not saying that DK Metcalf was terrible by any stretch of the imagination last year when it came to the routes that he was running. But with his agility lacking, to an extent, I don't know if he'll ever be able to do what Lockett does. Now, Lockett is an injury risk. So you have to make the decision of, are you going to take, the injury risk with Tyler Lockett, who's been injured his entire career, I believe. I mean, it's not like, this is a new thing for him. He always has 1 or 2 injuries that keep him out of games. I mean, is he going to be that go-to guy this year and stay healthy? Because if he is, he's going to far outproduce DK Metcalf. But, yeah. DK Metcalf, for me, is a little bit of a safer option, although he does get deep down, downfield targets. But I think I'm going to lean Lockett.
Yeah, to those points I was gonna hit on was one, Lockett does come out of the slot, so that really helps him again with those having more receptions than DK Metcalf because slots normally you're not heading all the way down the field. He gets a lot shorter passes again, which goes to your point of DK Metcalf's enormous air yards per target. And you're right with his DK Metcalf had, if my memory serves me right, one of the worst short shuttle times of any receiver at the combine. I mean, I think he had like D linemen getting faster short shuttle times than him.
Quarterbacks did.
The dude can run, the dude can jump, the dude can play football. So if he can, like you said, keep expanding that route tree, he's definitely has a shot to unseat Lockett. But I'm with you, man. I think Lockett's got it, but not by much.
And just a side note, I believe on his pro day, DK Metcalf, although everybody's pro day is better, that's a given, right? Everybody's pro day is better, but his pro day did improve significantly. Typically, you do chopping, you chop it down a little bit, but during his pro day, I believe, I'm not 100% on that once again, but I believe his pro day was better if I remember correctly. This was a year and some change ago.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball now. Looking into it, the Seahawks, they got quite a few running backs this year. Now, Carson's coming off an injury. I know Penny had an injury as well, Rashad Penny. They signed Carlos Hyde to a one-year deal. They drafted DJ Dallas out of Miami in the 4th round. Now, the owner has come out and said he thinks Carson's ready to go week 1. I think Rashad Penny might miss the first 6 weeks. They might put him on the PUP list. But if we're talking fantasy, some of those guys are coming off some major injuries. I mean, Carson had a fractured hip. Penny tore his ACL. So with Seattle's running backs, I mean, what do you see as far as fantasy-wise? Do you think any of these guys are worth kind of putting on your team, or are you kind of staying away from some of these guys?
So in terms of the running back situation, obviously the Seahawks love to run the ball, right? They love to run the ball. And side note, if you guys are on Twitter, go to FF_intervention. Once again, that's FF_intervention, right? I want you guys to go look through my feed. At some point, you guys will find it, but DJ Dallas had the sickest grab. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but DJ Dallas had like this 40-yard snag out of the air, like insane, just quick snag. It was nuts. It was insane. And it showed his ability to, catch passes, which actually kind of scares me a little bit if I'm a Tyler Lockett enthusiast. Now, I'm not a Tyler Lockett enthusiast. I just have him slightly over DK Metcalf, but there's a chance that if they really like DJ Dallas, they can get him on the field, in the slot position. But back to what you're asking for guys that I am actually touching. When I look at the charts from the Seahawks, right, they were actually almost inefficient in passing at times. Like Russell Wilson, I believe, passed the 12th most out of any quarterback in the league, right? But they ran a ton of plays. So they only passed on – they were 27th in the league in
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
No, I think he's frozen here. We'll have to give it a minute here.
Yeah. All right, folks, we got the glitches taken care of. We're back with Chase. Hit us with those Russell Wilson stats. Let's go.
I think I heated up your video too much. I think it got too hot in here, and it melted our connection. I mean, that's the only excuse, right?
Probably.
So essentially, the majority of the yards, back to where I was going to, he was 27th in, or I'm sorry, the Seahawks were 27th in passing percentage compared to running percentage, although he passed the 12th most amount of times. However, the yards just did not come. The yards just weren't coming from the passing game. The yards were coming from the running game constantly. So when I sit there and look at who I actually want, in this offense, it's got to be the running backs. Like, sure, you can have your Tyler Lockett, you can have your DK Metcalf if you want to take a shot on him, especially in best ball. But I want Chris Carson, as my running back, right? I want even Rashad Penny when he's almost going undrafted to an extent. I think he's going like 12th, 13th round in seasonal leagues. And, I mean, we watched Kareem Hunt get drafted last year, and he wasn't even eligible until, week 10. Meanwhile, he finishes up as a top, 24 or 20 running back? It was something ridiculous. He finished up as an RB2 during that time. So I'm taking Rashard Penny all day.
So how high do you have Carson? He's your RB what?
I'd have to look at my numbers, but I believe, because I do mostly Dynasty, in my season-long leagues, I think I have him going third or fourth round. I have him right around the Leonard Fournette. I know that. So right where like Leonard Fournette for me is going, Todd Gurley's going, I have Chris Carson right there with him.
So he's probably mid-late teens for you, something like that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. My next question isn't as detailed and finite, but so the NFC West, it might be the toughest and tightest division in football. Obviously, you got the reigning NFC champs, the 49ers out there, and someone that you had mentioned earlier as perhaps your next favorite team, the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, they are making big moves offensively, defensively, free agency, the draft. I mean, they're doing some big things out there. So the Rams, they're not really a thing. Brian has notably on this show numerous times not been so kind to them. He's projected the Rams to be 3-13 this year with the second overall pick in the draft.
They stink.
But so can the Seahawks win the NFC West this year?
No, it's going to be the Rams, I think.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. No, I don't. I think you're a little bit. I think you're a little harsh on the Rams. I mean, you know, Sean McVay is a genius, and honestly, like he figures out ways to win the game. Plus, their defense is dominant, and they didn't really get too much worse on the defense outside of losing, I believe, Corey Littleton or whatever. Now they need to rebuild, man. That offensive line is brutal, and they did a terrible job, you know, building up this team to win long term. They definitely went for the Super Bowl or bust type mentality. Injuries killed them, and honestly, you know, they kind of the bed. They didn't do too nice of things to the bed. So I believe that the Rams are going to be a little bit tougher than what they are, but I think this division is going to be a lot tighter than what people realize. Unfortunately, with Arizona, I still think that they need to improve their offensive line as well, and their defense is, you know, kind of shady, I guess.
At best.
So I actually have Arizona last. Then I have the Rams following them, but still with the winning record, just like they did last year, at least 8-8. For me, I don't know, man. The Seahawks have everything it takes, but losing Jadeveon Clowney, who is actually a lot bigger help in the run game than what people give him credit for, is great. However, they did add Quentin Dunbar, who graded out as Pro Football Focus's second-ranked cornerback of the year, which they got for a fifth-round pick from, of course, you know who, the Washington football team.
I'm impressed you said football team and not Redskins, because I still can't do it. I'm trying, but I'm not good at it.
It was so embarrassing to be a fan of them that you kind of like it's ingrained in your brain now.
I guess.
So, I mean, the Seahawks.
So you're still picking 49ers, Seahawks too.
Yeah, it's 49ers run away in my opinion. Although their efficiency in the run game is actually completely overrated. They weren't exactly efficient, and defenses from year to year, they typically don't hold up their consistency. Yeah, they fluctuate. So I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo, in order to have the same year they had this year, is going to have to step it up big time. And I honestly think that he does, even without the receiving core.
Okay.
What people don't realize, I do DFS too. So what people don't realize is in the first half of the season, excuse the jets overhead, by the way. I'm right next to the largest naval base in the area. So if you guys can hear the jets.
It's all good.
I'm sorry, in the world, not in the area. But anyways, where's I going? Oh, yeah. So I actually went down and I wanted to see the worst wide receiving cores about halfway through the year last year. And I thought Washington actually had the worst wide receiving core in the NFL. You know, Paul Richardson doesn't do anything, and Terry McLaurin's a rookie. It turns out that it was far and away the worst wide receiving core about halfway through the year was the 49ers. So obviously with Jalen Hurd re-injuring himself, Deebo Samuel being out for a little bit, I don't think they really got much worse, to be honest with you. I think they're pretty much where they were last year, if not better, because they got Brandon Ayuk. So all right, yeah. So if I have it ranked, I'll take the 49ers, 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, Arizona. I think that was the same order as last year, so we'll go for a repeat.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not high on the Rams, and I don't.
You've been waiting to get on that.
And I don't like Sean McVay. I think he's way overrated.
Yeah, don't get into it.
He's way
Oh,
overrated.
God. Can we say this for another one?
Yeah,
Yes.
Would you guys cover the Rams? Can I come in on that?
We already did, but we'll bring you back on. Because I just want to sit back and watch it happen.
I'll take that.
I mean,
I'll have all my numbers on point for that.
He shouldn't even have went to the Super Bowl. He got his butt whooped in the Super Bowl.
I hate that Van Jefferson pick, but supposedly he's impressing everybody at training camp.
Awesome, yeah. He's looking awesome, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I've seen, but I didn't get the pick. It drove me nuts. It seemed like the biggest reach I've ever seen.
Well, he didn't have the college production, but apparently he has got the football IQ and acumen, and he's just picking up everything.
And you're the fastest speed of anybody that ran at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. All right. So you touched a little bit on Russell Wilson. So if you're looking at that division, as far as fantasy-wise, are you more of a Russell Wilson guy, or you think Kyler Murray is kind of the QB to take out of that division? What are your thoughts on that?
Jared Goff for sure.
Here we go.
I'm just getting you going. No, I like Kyler Murray a lot. I think that he's going to have everything that it takes to get there. I just don't know if Cliff Kingsbury is the guy to get him there. Last year, the Cardinals were bottom 12 in plays run per game, although he has this whole enthusiastic backing of saying that, he runs a ton of plays, blah, blah, blah. He really doesn't. His plays run per game are subpar. I think that they need to improve the running back position. I actually have Arizona tabbed for Aaron Jones as of 2021. So if Cliff Kingsbury can get the most out of Kyler Murray, Kyler Murray's a lock for a long time. But Russell Wilson, for me, is actually falling down boards. I know that they're saying that he's going to run more often and he's going to do this and he's going to do that, but he's going to run more plays. I'm sorry. He's going to pass more often. I just don't see it. I mean, he passed the 12th most of any quarterback last year, and I don't see how it could actually, get to be more than that outside of an injury to Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde and a setback to Rashad Penny. I mean, that's what it would have to take. I mean, he would have to get into like the Travis Homer type, realm of possibilities in order for him to pass more. That's not the Seahawks system. That's not what they want to run. So for me, I mean, Russell Wilson at his age, especially in Dynasty, I don't know if you guys are, Dynasty or redraft, but especially in Dynasty, Russell Wilson's, I mean, he's back-to-back with me with Josh Allen. And I know that's kind of a hot take, but they're really close when it comes to overall drafting value and tiers. Almost identical. Kyler Murray is on the way up. He's got DeAndre Hopkins. He's got Christian Kirk. He's got my boy, Andy Isabella. What's up, baby?
Gosh.
Andy Isabella, who's going to outproduce Larry Fitzgerald this year.
The guy who caught 3 passes last year.
Oh, yeah. And took, what, an 80-yarder to the house? True. No, man, dude, he wasn't healthy to start out training camp and stuff, and honestly, he needs to he needs to get in some practices. He has to have some great work. But what was he, a second-round pick? I mean,
I think so, out of UMass.
Yeah. And he has the speed. But, dude, we forget sometimes being, fantasy enthusiasts, right, and, wanting production right now, we forget that the majority of these wide receivers, especially these guys that come out of small schools, it takes them a while to progress and to actually find their way to fantasy relevance. Year
3 is a sweet spot. Year 3 is the breakout year, and Andy Isabella going into his second year. I mean, dude, he has the upside, the same upside that we look at with Marquise Brown, and yet everybody's sleeping on him. Interesting. Well, I mean, he's free. If you want him in a redraft league, he is absolutely free.
He's my number one flyer for sure. My last pick.
I like it. He's your 15th, 16th round guy?
Yeah, he's that guy.
It. You are literally the only human being that I have heard say that, so I enjoy that. No, that's great.
I got a bunch of them. Like John Ross is another one too.
We'll get okay. I'll take Isabella. All right, so we're gonna switch gears here. There was the Seahawks. We appreciate you coming on for that. And now, since you're working overtime for free, we're gonna head right into the always exciting Cleveland Browns. You good?
Yes, dude. I'm a bigger fan of the Browns than I might be the Seahawks this year. Okay.
All right. So last year, the Browns D was pretty solid unit. At least their part of their defense was. They gave up the 7th most passing yards, which is pretty good. And that was aided by top 12 defense in hurry percentage and pressure percentage. But teams ran all over them. And they gave up the third most rushing yards of any defense. They gave up an average of 5 yards a carry and a ton of rushing touchdowns. Cleveland also paved the way with 140 missed tackles, worst in the league. They recently
Noah Fant
lost.
was a big part of that.
Yeah, right. No, it's good. They recently lost Mac Wilson for hopefully not all year, but probably a big portion, inside linebacker. And they got Carl Joseph in free agency. They drafted Jacob Phillips, a linebacker. But they just literally yesterday, I think it was, they lost Grant Delpit for the year. Torn Achilles, which is huge because I had like a whole write-up on him, how he was going to help the defense, but he is gone.
Is it confirmed?
Enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was confirmed. I know that's what they said, but I haven't seen it.
Just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, he's done.
I've spent all day writing, so I really haven't had a chance to check it out.
Dude, I hear it.
That sucks, man.
I know, gosh, it's bad. But do you see the Browns? And this is kind of a tough question, especially after the Delpit news. And I'm sorry to be the one to break that to you. But do you see them improving on their awful run defense, or am I going to be targeting them again this year in fantasy as far as running backs are concerned?
So with the Browns, I mean, obviously their pass defense was leaky, so is their run defense. But, you know, losing Myles Garrett for half the year or whatever doesn't help.
Right.
There's certain angles of this defense that I absolutely love. And obviously Stefanski, coming from a defensive-minded system over there with the Minnesota Vikings, you have to believe that he's going to bring some sort of defensive element with him, although he is an offensive coach. I'm a huge enthusiast. I was up until Grant Delpit, but I had the three. So I wrote an article for Dynasty Happy Hour, and it stated that the earliest of the number one overall defense was picked was 8th in ADP from year to year. Mm-hmm. So
I'll buy that.
It's a new defense almost every year. It fluctuates continuously.
Always.
I had my Colts. The Colts is the number one offense, or the number one team that's not drafted in the top 12 to do it this year. They're my number one defense that could not do it this year. The second overall team was the Washington football team, which, although I don't love what they're doing over there, I still like their defense. I mean, they have 7 first round or 6 first round draft picks out of their 7 front 7.
Correct. Yep.
So it's absolutely insane. And then you add in middle linebacker Thomas, right, from Carolina, who transferred over.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Washington's great. The third one for me was the Browns. And the Browns obviously needed to shore up the safety position. Denzel Ward is now going into his 3rd year, while the other safety from last year, help me out, the second-round pick. He was supposed to be a first-round pick, but he slipped. Anyways, he was supposed to be a top-end option at cornerback. He slipped in the draft because of character concerns. He had a rough year his first year. Teams attacked him.
Greedy Williams.
So teams attacked him, and obviously they succeeded in attacking him, which led to the leaky defense. In fact, in DFS, I normally targeted whatever wide receiver was playing Greedy Williams because Denzel Ward was on fire.
Yep.
So if Greedy Williams can take a step up, and if they don't miss Grant Delpit as much as I think they will, and with I'm
sorry, but Andrew Sendejo is probably going to fill the hole there, and he's from Minnesota with Stefanski, so they do have a history together.
But I believe he wasn't the starter last year, if I'm correct.
He was on the Eagles and didn't do a damn thing.
That's what he was. Right. Yeah, he went to the Eagles last year, and then he went over to the Browns. So, anyways, he wasn't the starter either way. And he's 30? He's in his 30s now. I think he's 33 older or something. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to fill in, and he might do all right, but I'm not expecting any kind of big things from Sendejo. So, anyways, if they can at least hide the position, if they can mask it, which is more than possible, this defense can still be one of those top options. And you never know with these defenses, like we said. However, with this tough of a division, if Ben Roethlisberger is even going to shelve himself with Joe Burrow coming in, I don't know if I want anything to do with that defense. That's 6 games a year you can't play them, and I'm a defensive streamer, so I'm not drafting the Browns. But when I look week to week and I realize that they did have a tougher schedule, I can actually sit there and feel like they are safe enough to go with as a stream if they have an advantageous matchup.
Fair enough.
Nice. Now, The guy that I like, I mean, I like Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying I like him fantasy-wise. I just like Baker Mayfield, man. I just like what he's about. But last year,
Moxie.
he had a bad year last year. I mean, look, he threw 21 picks. He completed less than 60% of his passes. He's going on his third different head coach in his third year. Do you think this is a do or die year for him? And could they kind of be moving, if he has another bad year, could you see Cleveland possibly moving on from Mayfield next year and them taking maybe one of those QBs next year in the draft, or do you think he's
No, they're not going to move on from Baker. Baker's going to end up working with Stefanski. I can already see it because they're going to limit what Baker can do. I mean, they improved both of their tackle positions, right? They brought in Conklin from Tennessee, and they drafted Miles Becton? No, it was Willis, right?
Yeah,
Willis, that's what it was. Yeah, all four of those guys keep blending in together.
Jedrick Will. Yeah.
Wills.
Yeah. So, anyways, they improved both tackle positions. They're solid right now. And the biggest thing is, like, when I picture, like, if I had a GIF or a GIF of Baker Mayfield from 2019, it's him taking a snap, dropping back, 3 or 5 step drop, and then running backwards to his right to avoid the defensive end on the right side. And just on his back foot, just throwing it up. Like, it was literally like, it was on repeat, a GIF that I will never get out of my head. It is literally that every single time. The thing is with Stefanski, he was actually almost historically low with his red zone attempts, which scares me away from Baker Mayfield. I don't think the volume's going to be there in the first place. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. But when it comes to Baker Mayfield, I don't know if he's going to have, on top of, the volume, the red zone attempts, which could make him a valuable option. Like, there were multiple years with Tom Brady where, they ran the ball a ton, but he was only fantasy relevant because of his red zone attempts. Last year, Stefanski attempted 51 red zone attempts. Yeah, 51 red zone attempts. So to sit there and look at Baker Mayfield, who I believe had like 78 last year, 75 last year, somewhere in that range. I mean, he's coming down 20 times. So, I mean, even if he completes, 5 of those for touchdowns, let's just say, or 4 of those for touchdowns out of the 20 that he's now missing, 25 that he's now missing, I mean, you're talking about 24 fantasy points, which is, I mean, that would bump him down to from, what was he, quarterback 20 all the way down to quarterback 25. I mean, maybe his efficiency goes up, which balances it, but he's not fantasy relevant. There's no way. Not unless you're in a 2-quarterback league.
Right. Now,
will he have the starting job? Will he be a good quarterback? Yeah. Dude, he's better than Kirk Cousins. He will produce at least Kirk Cousins' numbers, and he has better receivers, in my opinion, than Kirk Cousins had. So he's going to be a good quarterback, but does he ever, like, is this the worst thing that ever happened to him or happened to Baker Mayfield owners in fantasy football? Yeah, it probably is, because now he's stuck for life in a system where he's never going to be fantasy relevant outside of streaming options.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, man.
And that actually leads right into my next question for you. And I want to talk about maybe the number one most polarizing player in the NFL, definitely one of them, and that is Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. He started his career absolutely on fire, 1,300, 1,400, and 1,300 yards, paired with 12, 13, and 10 touchdowns. For the 5 years he spent in New York, with the Giants, he averaged 93 yards a game receiving, just about 92 point something. Now, last year in Cleveland, though, he only averaged 65. He also only had 4 touchdowns. The targets were there. He had 133 targets, but his production dropped off dramatically. Now, last year was really wild when it comes to OBJ. And I can't really figure out what the deal is, because you can blame Baker Mayfield, who only had a 74%. Only 74% of OBJ's targets were deemed catchable. So only 3/4 of the throws that even went to him were catchable. But OBJ, he also had 11 drops. And a pedestrian, he was like 23rd in separation rate, which when you think OBJ and athleticism, you think like he's separating from his defender, but he really didn't that much. Now, granted, he was dealing with a hernia and some injuries and things like that, but I don't know who's to blame here. I don't know if it's Baker. I don't know if it's OBJ. I'm kind of higher on OBJ than most this year, but what can we expect from him?
Brian, do you want to hop on this first, or? I feel like I've been taking all the questions, not giving any meat on the bone.
Listen, you're
this
the
is for
guy,
you, man.
You're
This is
the
for
professional here. Listen, you're the fantasy
Dude, we're all
pros
experts,
guy.
okay? Everybody in fantasy everybody's an expert. I swear to God, everybody's an expert.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Let's go, Brian. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, what do you got? I want to play off somebody else. I normally play off of other people. So for me to sit there and take all the answers when I don't have my numbers in front of me is really tough for me to do. I like to kind of play
you outside of your comfort zone. That's good.
I know, right? I mean, I love guessing. I guess every single time I have a chance to. And I love talking football. So I do all these random meetups all the time. But it's really tough for me to just give stats and spit stats if I don't have them on a pre-written sheet that I do days and days ahead of time.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, Odell Beckham, he's one of those guys, like, as far as fantasy-wise, yeah, I mean, I don't know how high I would take Odell Beckham. I mean, I didn't do too many mock drafts this year yet, but he's definitely –
his ADP puts him like 11 to 13 usually, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, if he's right there, I mean, I think I'm in on Odell Beckham this year. I mean, last year I don't think he didn't really have that good of a year, like you said. But, yeah, I mean, I think Mayfield's going to turn around this year, and I don't know. I mean, OBJ is the guy. I'm not sold on Jarvis Landry over there. I mean, he's good, but, I mean, as far as fantasy-wise, yeah, I mean, I'm all in on Odell Beckham this year. I think he's going to have a big year. So, I don't know. That's my take on OBJ. I think he's going to have a big year this year.
All right, so with me, wide receivers, right? Like wide receivers can still be good without their quarterbacks being fantasy relevant. We saw it with DJ Moore, we saw it with Kenny Galladay. So I think this is the situation, even with the old cliche, there's so many mouths to feed, right? For the Cleveland Browns, I think that OBJ can be relevant. And last year, although he wasn't successful, we all know that he was dealing with injuries. You know, he had the surgery. What was it? Core? Was it core?
I think it was a hernia,
Hernia, okay. So either way, I mean, he was injured the entire time. He's going to be relevant. Like, it's just a question as to, I guess, when, you know, or what games you can use him in. Because like we saw with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, you couldn't use them every single week. Like, it was, you know, it would backfire on you. So you really have to study the matchups and know when to use these guys. Now, with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry both being better, yeah, I think that with Baker Mayfield's comfort of these two guys, he is relevant. However, with dynasty leagues, I want to buy him. I want to buy him everywhere I can. I normally don't buy guys at this age because this is typically when they are the most valuable. However, on a team that's going to be pass heavy, right, and we're going to see Odell Beckham's numbers potentially drop from week to week, right, after he had a bad season, or maybe even, 2 bad seasons in a row. Dude, we could see Odell Beckham, right, absolutely explode if he ends up with a different team. Like we just talked about him. Seahawks are always looking for another wide receiver for some reason, aren't they? Like, they're always in the market for, you know, a superstar breakout. The Patriots need a wide receiver. Like, if he ends up, because they can cut him after this year, they can cut both Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. and save $30 million with only $3 million in dead cap space. Right? So,
big time.
I mean, you're talking about revamping your safety position, revamping your leaky defense, signing a lesser wide receiver like, I don't know, Corey Davis or something along those lines who can just suffice in a run-heavy offense. They don't need two high-dollar wide receivers. Come on, like, really? So Odell Beckham, right, could end up with another team this upcoming year. They're not going to pay him. They're going to cut him. Very similar to Amari Cooper's fake contract, by the way, and end up moving on.
We're about to get on him too.
Oh, don't get me started. Get me started.
I'm going to. Just a minute.
Oh God. All right. So, yeah. Anyways, with Odell Beckham, I'm buying in the event that he could end up with another team, even at his 28 years of age, and have significant fantasy relevance for the next few years in Dynasty. In redraft, I'm still taking a chance on him at the place he's going. He's going like with Calvin Ridley. I mean, Calvin Ridley's going way too high, first off, but he's going right around the same range as Calvin Ridley or he's going before DJ Shark. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Amari Cooper, that's a good one.
I was just getting ready to say Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I would take him over Amari Cooper in a heartbeat.
100%. All right, Brian, give one more Browns question, and let's get to this fantasy stuff.
All right, so you touched on it a little bit. I mean, you talked about Stefanski. He brings that running mentality. Now, Cleveland's got two decent – I mean, they got two good running backs. You got Nick Chubb, you got Kareem Hunt. So Kareem Hunt missed some games last year. Now, do you think Kareem Hunt being available for the full year hurts Nick Chubb's fantasy value, or do you still think Chubb is the guy in Cleveland there as running back?
Well, I mean, it's obviously going to hurt his fantasy value, but his fantasy is most likely going to run more. I mean, we'll see what happens as the season goes on, but I expect the defense to be improved, which in turn, to an extent, depending on if it's a pass catching running back, actually leads to running back production. However, Nick Chubb was catching a ton of passes prior to Kareem Hunt coming in. And once he came in, we saw that, decline significantly. So I personally believe that the Chubb is still worth the value that he's going at, especially in dynasty leagues, because I don't think Kareem Hunt is going back. He's not going – there's no way. There's no way that he's going back to Cleveland after this year. Not unless they want to form some sort of – and this could be a trend, by the way. So I'm just going to put this out there. I don't think this is going to happen, but I'm going to throw it out there, and I actually want to hear back from you guys. Mm-hmm. They could be forming powerhouses with the running back position, right, as to where they don't have to see as many carries. With the influx of youth that we have coming in at the running back position over the next 2 to 3 years, including this past year, it's absolutely insane. These teams, right, they're not paying running backs anymore. I mean, we talk about Melvin Gordon and Todd Gurley getting, $6 and $8 million, Todd over 1 year, Melvin over 2 years. That's not a lot of money. Meanwhile, the quarterbacks are getting $30, $40 million, right? Safeties just broke the record today or yesterday, whatever day it was. I mean, we're seeing money getting doled out nonstop. Meanwhile, we're going to see a salary cap that stays relatively, close to what it was in 2020, also in 2021 because of everything going on with COVID. So the running backs, there's going to be over 30 running backs who either had a role when somebody was injured, a role in a committee, or a bell cow back become free agents in 2021. So these running backs could end up teaming up while they're not getting paid very much to take the workload off of their plate, especially being veterans, maybe 25, 26 years old, and not being like a young Christian McCaffrey. We could see these veterans actually team up, right? And take the workload off of each other to preserve and make your lifespan longer in the NFL. So what do you guys think about that?
That's the key. They have to be young, or they have to be – something has to be up. So like Kareem Hunt, I mean, he is young, but he should be worth a whole lot more money, but he screwed up. So he's just trying to get himself back in the league, which he did. And, he's cheap. But Nick Chubb, when his next contract comes up, there's no way they're going to be able to keep, like you said, there's no way they're going to be able to keep both those. It's going to be too expensive because, like you said, nobody's paying running backs anymore. So if I can go out – doesn't. Right. And if I can go out and if I can draft, if I'm the Lions, I can draft Kerryon Johnson, and then I can draft DeAndre Swift, boom, that's exactly what you're talking about. And if I can do something like that, or if I can bring in a cheap veteran, I don't know.
Melvin Gordon.
Right.
With Philip Lindsay and Norris Ribbon.
Right. Now, I feel like it's tough to do because there's so many milestones or checkpoints you have to hit. Like you have to have a young guy that you got later in the draft. You have to have two of those guys, or you have to have one of those guys plus a veteran that you're just going to be like, look, we're not going to pay. You can come here and play for us, but we're really not going to pay you that much. If they can pull it off, honestly, for fantasy, it sucks. But for real life, it's great for them.
So here's like my point, though, is what if running backs decide to team up just like the NBA did and actually join powers and go to the same place?
That's interesting. I mean, I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I could see that. I mean, like you said,
prolonging their career.
Yeah, just to make that extra couple $1 million for another, I guess making $2 to $3, $4 million a year is better than zero, so they could team up and
Hey, you're looking at Devontae Freeman because he got utilized so much. What if you could prolong your career 4 or 5 years because you don't have to take those snaps, and yet you're not a high-end running back? So these guys get together, right? They get together and they join forces
Be interesting.
like Captain Planet, right?
Earth,
And they
wind,
create
fire,
one
heart.
solid unit. Yeah,
I think egos might be too big because
absolutely.
Now basketball is different because, like, if I'm LeBron James and you're Anthony Davis, we're doing different things, right? We're bringing different things to the table, and we can both prosper there. And, LeBron can score 30, AD can score 30, and we're good. As far as running backs go, usually it's one on the field or the other. I'm just not sure the egos are going to be able to handle that.
How else are the running backs? And this might be off topic, guys. I'm sorry I'm pulling you here, but
No, it's all good.
What else can the running backs do to combat this unfair, salary that they're getting? It's disrespectful.
I don't disagree because I'm a running back guy. I love running backs. But, if you're not Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley when his contract comes up, if you're not Ezekiel Elliott, he got paid. If you're not one of the top 4 or 5 guys in the league, I think you're out of luck, man. That just seems to be how it's going. Dude, it's getting to the point now where they're getting on the defensive tackle level and backup safety, level. They're getting disrespected completely. Anyways, back to the show. I just was curious y'all's opinion on that. No.
Yeah, man. That's something that their agents are going to have to put that bug in their ear. So, yeah, you might have to talk to
hey, free agents can communicate, man. They can communicate. Right?
Yeah. I don't know what Devontae Freeman's going to have to do something. Take $2 million and play for someone, or sit out. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going fantasy here. We're taking a turn. We're done with the Browns, right, Brian? You good? You all good with the Browns, Brian?
Yeah, we're good with the Browns. Right. We'll ask a few fantasy questions.
All right. So, how or where, Chase, do you draw the line in your preseason rankings, and I'm talking redraft, not necessarily dynasty, when it comes to a player that will finish the season compared to how they're going to score week to week? And we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and your guy, Amari Cooper. So Aaron Rodgers last year, I think he finished as a 11th or 12th high scoring quarterback, but like 70% of his scoring came in 4 different weeks. And Amari Cooper was the same way. I think he was lower than a number 3 receiver in like half of his games. So at the end of the year, they're where they need to be. But week to week is so volatile. You have no idea if Amari Cooper is going to give you 30 points or 3 points. So when you're doing your pre-draft rankings and redrafts, where do you draw the line? How's that work for you?
I hate volatility. I don't touch volatility whatsoever. Volatility for me is a cancer outside of, round 12 or whatever. I'll take some shots here and there on round 8, round 9, round 8 or round 9. But I absolutely do not touch guys like Tyreek Hill. I don't touch guys like Amari Cooper. I don't touch these big play guys, DK Metcalf, like we talked about earlier. They're on my X list anytime before the 5th round. The 6th and the 7th, it becomes questionable. Like if a guy falls to me that still produces on 50% of the weeks, I swear the Jets are never like this. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not.
We can. It's all good.
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry to all the listeners if you guys are still listening. If I haven't scared you all away, the Jets are never normally this bad at this time of night. But they have to do their touch and gives. So anyways, guys like DK Metcalf, they fall to me in like the 6th round, which, 7th round, which probably won't happen. But if they do, I might take a chance there. But it really depends on my roster build. So if I'm running back heavy, right, which I normally am, for the first 3 rounds, and then I go with 2 safe wide receivers, and then I have, semi back-to-back picks. Like, I have 2 wide receivers that I have targeted who are both kind of, risky guys. After those initial picks that are safe, I'll take both those guys and play it like that. But I'm not going – it's all about the floor for me, obviously with the upside. But the floor for me in the first few rounds, you don't win your leagues from a draft, right? Like you don't win your league in your draft. You win your league in your free agency and stuff, but you can lose your league in your draft.
100%.
If you pick an injury-prone guy, if you pick – a guy that gets suspended that has character issues. If you pick a guy whose floor is literally, one target, which Tyreek Hill, has been, Amari Cooper has been, you could lose your league that way. And that's not how I want to lose my league, is by, a player being volatile.
Amen.
Over the past 2 years, in the games that Tyreek Hill has played, he's only produced double-digit fantasy points in PPR in 50% of those games. Amari Cooper's in, was it 38%? 37.5, I think, actually. 37.5.
It's low. It's low.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with that.
Well,
Don't want anything to do with that. I hate volatility.
So one of my buddies, he texted me today. He was talking about, he told me that he has two of his yearly drafts. He's got the 3rd pick in one and the 8th pick out of 10 in his other draft. So if you're sitting at number 3, who are you hoping to get? And at number 8, he was telling me, at number 8, he's looking at maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he's not real sold on him. So give me your thoughts. Like, if you're sitting at 3, are you hoping to get Zeke or Saquon, and at number 8, who are you looking at there?
Wait, you said this is dynasty or redraft? I'm sorry.
It's a redraft league.
All right, so for redrafted 3, Zeke, Saquon if he's there. Alvin Kamara could be in for a big year, although I've actually recently, from the research I've done, I've been scared off him slightly just because Latavius Murray has outproduced him while playing in that offense. And, Alvin Kamara, I like him a lot. I really do. But adding Emmanuel Sanders to that offense, adding Adam Troutman, who could take away a few, not a lot, but a few of those, short yardage targets. Oh, man. Alvin Kamara is still my 4th overall pick. But,
the 2 or 3 weeks that Latavius Murray was the guy, he was the number 1 fantasy running back across the board.
Yeah, but it's that offense, right? Like, that offense is just sick.
Right. But they know he can produce. He's going to get his touches.
Yeah. So, Alvin Kamara's still, like I said, I'm still I'm like pumping the brakes. I'm like, should I go Mixon, Sanders, Jacobs, Cook? If Cook wasn't in the holdout situation, I would take Cook over him.
He's done, though. He's right. He's ready to go. He said, I'm done talking about my contract. I'm just going to play now.
Did he? How did I miss that?
Yeah, the contract situation is, I don't know. It's over with. He said, I'm done talking about my contract. I'm just here to play.
Oh, I forgot all about that. I was riding my bike, and I forgot that I was listening to that. Yeah, so, okay, Dalvin Cook's – that was injured. He's like falling off the tier to an extent, but he's not off that. Like in redraft leagues, he's still in that top tier. The next tier down below that is a little bit more crowded, a little bit more questionable. We have Kamara, we have Dalvin Cook, we have Joe Mixon, which is arguable. I love Miles Sanders this year, although I need to figure out what's going on with that injury, see if he's actually hurt or not. Josh Jacobs is another one. So, yeah, it's a little bit murkier in that second tier. And, yeah, I honestly, my second tier for the running back position is massive. It's close to 8 players, 9 players, something like that. Because I think that Derrick Henry could fill in that position, right? I think that Austin Eckler has a great shot, although I think I have Austin Eckler in the 3rd tier, but it's really close. Either way, when you're in the 3rd position there, you got to go with Zeke or Barkley if he makes it to you. I doubt he does, but for the 8th, you said?
Yeah.
I'm still hammering away. I am hammering away at running back in the first 2 rounds. There's only 2 guys that make me think in the first 2 rounds, so I want to go with this guy over somebody else in redraft leagues, is Michael Thomas and Chris Godwin. There's the only 2 that even make me hesitate for a brief second in
Godwin
the first 2
over
rounds.
Julio and Devontae.
Yeah. Well, Julio's great, man. I love Julio, but I guess his inability.
Look, don't make me change.
No, I'm trying to come up with a reason as to why, because normally I argue dynasty. I'm telling you,
I got you.
90. I've been on probably 10 podcasts outside of my own in the past 2 weeks, and so I want to say 99% of them, everyone outside of you guys, has been dynasty. So I'm trying to come up with different reasons why. But Julio Jones, I do like in redraft, but he can wait till the 3rd round. his injury history or his injury lingering. It's like people misconstrue injury history. Just because you don't miss a game doesn't mean that you weren't hurt. And guys like T.Y. Hilton have dealt with that. Guys like Tyler Lockett, who we mentioned earlier, have dealt like that. Guys like Julio Jones deal with that. Toe issues, whatever the case was. His inability to consistently get into the end zone concerns me too. Because every year I'm like, dude, he has to get in the end zone. This guy's a physical freak. Like, he's the perfect candidate to, increase in touchdowns. Anyways, Chris Godwin and Michael Thomas, the only guys in the first 2 rounds, because wide receiver is way too deep. It's way too deep. You see a 29.6% decrease from the running back 1, or the running back 2, actually, because I eliminated Chris McCaffrey, from the running back 2 to the running back 12 last year. You see a 14.9% decrease from the wide receiver 2 to the wide receiver 12, because I eliminated Michael Thomas. So there's a far bigger drop-off in the running backs in the top 12 than there are in the wide receivers. So if you believe this guy is actually a running back 1, you need to make sure you get him into your lineup. And so for the wide receiver 2s, it's only like a 7.8% decrease, if I remember correctly. It's only for the wide receiver 2s from 13 to 24. It's only like a 7.8% decrease in points to that position. So, yeah, I'd much rather have my running backs heavy and all the wide receivers in the wide receiver 1 disappear off the board, and then take all my shots at the wide receiver 2. Just line them up like ducks. Just bap, bap, bap,
Yep, I'm with you. All right, last one, quick for me, nice and easy. Who is one late-round guy, and you mentioned a couple of them, but round 10 or after, that you have to have on your fantasy team in a redraft?
I don't know the answer to this.
Cool.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. How can I make this the most elongated answer
Let's
ever?
not.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, Andy Isabella's a big one. Joe Reed's my boy, man, in the rookie drafts, but that's not redraft evidence. So Joe Reed, you can stay away from for right now, although Mike Williams is going to be out for a significant amount of time.
True.
Marvin Jones Jr., you can't go wrong with. I don't know what round he's going in.
Before 10, I believe.
Okay, so scratch Marvin Jones Jr. Let's go. What round is Marlon Mack going in? Because last time I saw he fell outside the 10th round for a draft I did recently.
He's
and that was a redraft.
It's probably before 10. I want to say he's probably 7 or 8.
Okay, that's where I saw him go. That's where I saw him go prior to this. But recently, I did a draft. He fell outside the 10th. I was like, "Oh, give him to me." I was already stacked with running back, but I was like, "Hell yeah!" Let's go with Kendrick Bourne. Bourne. That's an interesting one, right?
There's a lot of injuries out there, so
yeah.
Why not?
I mean, dude, the 49ers, dude, they're stacked with injuries. Like, that's all they see are injuries right now to the wide receiver position. And Kendrick Bourne, who is a red zone magnet. I mean, he was absolutely insane. I mean, he had double-digit fantasy points in all but one game that he had over 6 targets in, if I remember correctly. And that game was the Mud Bowl with the Washington football team and the San Francisco 49ers, in which Garoppolo threw for like 100 and some odd yards, and 69 of them went to Kendrick Bourne on 3 receptions. So he finished with 9.9 fantasy points. So Kendrick Bourne, if he sees the snaps, for some weird reason always produces, and yet they still don't give him an opportunity. Kendrick Bourne is my answer.
Dig in deep. Brian, do you have any more? Are we getting out of here?
Yeah, just off of that, give us your big fantasy. Who's going to be the biggest bust this year fantasy-wise? That's getting picked in the first 2 rounds.
Oh, first 2. Oh, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay.
Woo! Love it.
His floor is up there. His floor is there. He's got a floor, and I love his floor. But his floor is running back 16 or so. His ceiling, he doesn't have breakaway speed. And
He's
people don't
overall.
get this. When you go and watch his film, I'm not talking about his highlight reels, but even his highlight reels will show you, in most of them, not all of them, but in most of them, he cannot get around the linebackers. He cannot beat the defensive ends to the corner. And although this offense is going to open things up, which is going to produce his floor, his ceiling does not get him touchdowns. And it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts when people are sitting there talking about him producing. You need touchdowns to be a top 12 option or a first-round draft pick, you need touchdowns. A second-round draft pick, you need touchdowns. Right? Why is Leonard Fournette going in the third and fourth round right now? Why?
Because he had 3 touchdowns last year.
Because he had 3 touchdowns. Ding, 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 ding. You got it. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So I don't understand the infatuation with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. He's a great player. He is. But he's not a first or second round draft pick, in my opinion. He's not.
Awesome.
I mean, great floor, very low ceiling.
Hey, Chase, you have been fantastic. Again, we are definitely way over our normal
How long have we been talking
hour
for?
time. I don't know, probably like 6 days. So go ahead, plug your stuff real quick so we can get you off of here.
So you guys can.
All right, Brian, hit the leave meeting. Leave meeting.
No, you guys can find me at FF_intervention on Twitter, right? You guys can find my work at Dynasty Happy Hour and Dynasty Nerds. I highly encourage all of you guys to use Linktree. Linktree is a great source for any new podcasters out there in order to get your stuff out there in one very easy to find source. You can find my stuff at linktr.ee/fantasy intervention. Once again, that's linktr.ee/fantasy intervention. You guys can find all my articles there. You can find all the sources that I use. You guys should use it as well if you guys don't. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Yeah, go check me out. And don't forget to follow me on Patreon, patreon.com/fantasy intervention.
Awesome. Nice. Fantastic stuff, man. Lots of numbers, lots of hot takes. I love it. It's great. We're definitely going to get some serious feedback and some anger comments on this show. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. You have a good one, man.
You too.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, man. Absolutely. What a great guest he was, especially stepping in the clutch. Like we said, last minute we found out, our one of our guests we were going to have is being displaced right now. So obviously prayers for him and his family. But Chase was great. He is so deep in the fantasy world. So definitely thankful he was able to come on and chat with us.
Yeah, that was definitely a good fantasy spin there on the Browns, Seahawks, and then some of the other stuff that we had. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get a lot of good feedback about that. Somebody we'll definitely have on. Try to get him back on during the year if he's not too busy. I know he's got a lot of stuff going on. But.
Oh, yeah. Especially if he gets on Fantasy Pros, man, that'd be big time.
Yeah, for sure. We'll tomorrow we'll post on our Facebook page some of his pages and whatnot, and his podcast and everything else. So
thanks for listening. I know we got to run. We kept you all longer than we had planned, but hey, if you're having a good talks and we're learning some stuff, hey, that's what we're about.
Yep. All right. I'll see you next week. I think next week we'll have maybe Texans and Bills. So another 2-team preview. So we'll go from there.
All right. Keep adding your friends. We'll see you. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.